All right, we have got Mission Impossible, the final reckoning. I don't even think I can give you guys an intro to this. Listen, it's Tom Cruise, and the mission is hard. The mission is impossible. That is the synopsis. That's all you need to know at this point with this movie. So let me start off with talking about the good in this movie. You already know at this point in the game, the best thing is going to be the stunts. They are next level. Every single stunt feels more intense than the next one, right? Or than the last one. Knowing that Tom Cruise is actually doing a lot of these stunts, that in itself, I think, adds a nice touch of realism, and it makes the suspense and the tension that much more palpable in this. One of the better stunts you'll see is probably the underwater scene. This is crazy. Like I don't understand what this man has going through his mind, but the underwater scenes were so immersive. I mean, I kind of caught myself holding my breath. There were times I was like, no, I couldn't do it. I know he got a suit on, but I'm just, you too deep. You listen, I can only go to 6 feet, right? I don't go further than 6 feet. I'm 6'2", but I can't go further than 6 feet. I can swim a little bit, but what this man was doing, nuts, and it's cold. Yikes. So, I like how he added this sense of uncertainty, and you had, of course, all these technical things going on. What I loved about this scene the most is the fact that so many issues happen that constantly keep the tension and suspense going, right? It's like, all right, I'm supposed to just go do this, but that's a problem. That happened. I didn't know what to do with this. This thing just, it's a lot going on. It's crazy. But even with that underwater scene, the next scene that probably takes the cake is going to be the plane scene. Again, Tom Cruise is absolutely nuts. The fact that this man is doing all of these stunts on his own is insane. But the plane scene is probably some of the best stuff that he's done so far. Now, he's had other air scenes, before in the previous movies, but the fact that he just keeps doing this and he finds a way to make these more dramatic as they go, I absolutely love it. I just had a great time with that. So the stunts are a huge thing here and they work. Next, I would say the fight choreography and the cinematography during the fight scenes and the editing, well done, extremely well done. There's one moment in the film where you see two fights going on at the same time. And what makes it so dope to me is that they were able to not only give you these really cool, unique camera angles, but you also got to see the editing where like the music is pumping, the music is going, and you see in this fight, but then they jump to this fight, then they jump back to the other fight and they jump, and it keeps you engaged the whole time because it's constantly something going on. It's constantly happening, right? So the fight scenes, the choreography were absolutely on point. Definitely enjoyed that. I also will say I enjoyed the cast overall. I liked the different actors that they get. There are a lot of actors that are in this movie. You got Angela Bassett showing up. Just from a whole number of different actors that where's it my man at from Severance? Yeah, you got him in there. Really, really solid. I like what they did with the roles that they were given. I thought that they had very good on-screen chemistry. I really enjoyed him. Like when he was on screen, he probably had some of the better scenes as well. But I think another good thing that you will like from this film is that this gives a really good sense of closure if you're a fan of the franchise. If you've watched all the Mission Impossible movies so far, they made this movie in such a nice way from the writing where you're going to get some flashbacks, you're going to get some callbacks, and everything ties together. Yes, everything from Mission Impossible 1, from the iconic scenes that you remember from Mission Impossible, they build off of that. They bring stuff full circle. I think that one of the biggest reveals is like how all those other films actually make this film the most important, right? So I love the writing in that way, what they did, how they make the story actually more compelling. That worked for me. Okay. So you got all that, the stunts, the actors, the action, the fighting, what else? The story. Those are all the things that I thought were very good in this film. And shout out to Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise, good actor. You know he gonna deliver. He did his thing. Now we got to talk about the bad. We got to talk about the bad. And I had some problems. So, first off, I had an issue with the pacing of the film and some of the editing, right? So, sometimes the writing gets extremely repetitive. You're going to have certain dialogue from characters that I think made some of the scenes kind of drag a little bit. So you're going to get a lot of, how can I put it? A lot of explainers happening. There's a lot of exposition. Yes, you need to know as the audience that this mission that we're about to get into, here are the steps. Here's why it's complicated. This is what we need to do, right? But where the movie starts to get repetitive and where I think it starts to fail in the writing aspect is you're always going to hear the world is at stake. The whole world depends on this mission. Oh my gosh. And no one can do this but Ethan Hunt. Ethan Hunt, you're the only one that can do this. Man, if anyone can do it, it's Ethan Hunt. Over and over and over again. And I'm just sitting here like, yo, we get it. We understand. The movie is called Mission Impossible. I know every mission is going to be impossible until Ethan actually does it. Right? Like, it's not, that's like saying, like, yo, Fast and the Furious, the cars go fast and furious. We know. We understand. Right? So it gets incredibly problematic when they keep dragging that, because this movie is like 2 hours and 50 minutes long. So it's almost 3 hours, right? Maybe 240. It's like 3 hours of them constantly talk. Every mission this man goes to, Ethan, you're the only one. Ethan, you can only do it. Ethan, I don't know if anyone else can do this but you. It's like, bro, stop. Anyway, you also have, I think, the mistreatment of the side characters, right? One of the worst handlings, I think, of one of the characters was my man, Ving Rhames. Ving Rhames is, he plays Luther in the movie. Very good character. I thought they did a good job with him in the previous films. But I didn't like what they use him for in this. His role does not feel authentic. If he felt like a plot device just for Ethan, right? And I don't like how underused he was. And I do blame the editing, right? It's just that, and it's not just him, it's also with other characters. But sometimes the editing in this movie felt kind of choppy, where like you're like, wait a minute, shouldn't there be like an extra 2 minutes here where you at least explain why this character is doing this, or why did that character show up there? Like, it felt a little choppy. And again, this is me with my critical eye. A lot of people just watching it, y'all might not notice this, and that's okay. But that's just stuff that I picked up on. So I thought that some of the supporting characters were not handled in the best way. And the editing kind of made the movie feel a little disjointed at times. So I do think that there was a better flow that could have happened, and they had a lot of fat that they could have trimmed off. Lastly, you also have, and this was my issue because I thought the previous movie did such a good job with this. It was the villains. Like, you got Gabriel, right, who's like, his main nemesis and stuff like that. And you also have the entity, right? That was also this big villain, this AI villain from the last film. I thought both the entity and Gabriel didn't hit as hard as they could. They kind of pulled the punches. They kind of made them B-level characters, whereas in the last movie, they were a problem. Gabriel was always one step ahead of Ethan. The entity was just constantly building itself up to be this massive, crazy threat. And don't get me wrong, the entity is still a problem in this movie. However, it feels like the entity takes a back seat and it's like, all right, Ethan, let's hurry up to the end of the movie. Right? That's how it feels. Whereas in the last movie, the entity was like always there, just constantly. Now it just kind of feels like an afterthought, you know? So I didn't really like how the entity and Gabriel felt watered down a little bit. It felt more like this movie was more focused on elevating Tom Cruise and Ethan Hunt while downsizing the villains. And in my opinion, that's not a good way to build up an action hero in that sense. Again, let's think about The Dark Knight. The best thing you can do is have a great villain, Endgame, Infinity War, all these. When you have a great villain, your hero, who we all know is the main star, that hero is going to elevate anyway. So I think that they kind of neutered the villains too much, and yeah, it was just kind of like all just to hype up Ethan Hunt. Anyway, let me go to the reason now. So, Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning, I think it is the kind of blockbuster spectacle that does demand to be seen on the big screen, even though it does have a couple bumps along the way. Tom Cruise delivers another solid, jaw-dropping performance. He is easily one of the greatest action stars of all time at this point, doing it for this long. Shout out to Tom Cruise running. Yes, you're gonna see a whole lot of Tom Cruise running for real. And yes, while the film does have some flaws, does have some pacing issues, a whole lot of exposition, and the villain's not doing all that great. I still think that it does manage to entertain very, very well. So when it comes to the rating for Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning, I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. I think this film went down the route that the Fast and Furious went down. So the same way the Fast and Furious left racing behind, this movie kind of felt like it did the same with all the spy and the espionage stuff, right? Like in the earlier movies, you got face masks and you got all this crazy technology and all this crazy spy stuff going on. But now it feels like these movies are leaning more into the crazy, wild stunts and the action. Now, luckily, these stunts aren't as eye rolling as the Fast and Furious stuff would be, right? It's not as unbelievable. So it does at least have that working in its favor. And here's the thing, you're coming for the stunts. The stunts in itself create that cinematic experience. So that is worth the price of the ticket on its own. And I don't think that this is the best movie in the franchise. I still kind of love Ghost Protocol and Mission Impossible 1. Like I still like those movies. This still earns its place in the upper levels of the franchise. So once again, you do not have to do your homework. You don't have to go rewatch all the movies. There is no post-credit scene. This supposedly is the final movie in the whole franchise. And yes, I would say watch it in either Dolby or in IMAX. Worth it, in my opinion. But yeah, definitely go check this out. So anyway, guys, do you plan on watching Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning? If and when you do, come on back to this video and let me know what you thought about it in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. This was just a segment of one of my live chats, and if you're interested in joining in on the next one, be sure to subscribe and turn on your notifications for more. I've got more videos and reviews to do for you all, and until next time, I'll see you all later.